Okay, so earlier this week you learned the education behind effective parenting styles. If you did not see part 1 of this series, I think you can click on this link just above my head here to watch the first video, get some education and background behind the information that we're about to share today. I highly encourage you to check that out first and then come back to this video where we will learn these 6 action steps to see more positive behavior in your child that I promise you will be extremely helpful for you as a parent and for the growth and development of your child. So let's get started. Welcome to Parenting 101. If you have not watched these videos in the past, my name is Analise Williams. I am a mother of 3, a master in psychology, an educator, and a performance coach. Okay, action step number 1 is to find what motivates you and your child in any given moment. I don't want to confuse this discussion with bribing our child because that is not what we are talking about today. We are talking about that deep, innate motivation that all of us have to get up in the morning to eat that yummy donut, or take a shower to smell good, or to relax, go to work in order to make money to survive. We all have motivation to do something, or we don't do anything, and oftentimes that can be related to feelings of depression, which is why we don't have motivation to do things. If you're struggling with that, let me know, comment below, reach out to me for a private coaching session. At this point, I'm going to presume that you all understand what those deep motivations are for you in that moment and for your child, but if you don't, that's okay. We'll save that for another video or for a private coaching session. Also, keep in mind that what motivates us changes in our development, our child's development. Every day it might change a little bit, and for every given moment it might change. And typically when we see behavior or misbehavior in our child, it often relates to them being motivated for something or for some experience. Now, I would like you to imagine a time when your child had an adverse experience. For this example, we'll define an adverse experience as a not so good moment. For example, this could be like when your kid is in the grocery store and they throw a fit because they didn't get the candy they wanted, or the example that I used about my daughter cutting her hair too short, or maybe you're very frustrated as a parent because you asked your son for the 10th time to take the freaking trash out. I know that we have that experience in my household quite often lately, actually. Or, your teenager's girlfriend just broke up with them, and how are you going to respond to that? So let's talk about that. Let's use the threw a fit in the grocery store example because I imagine all of you have been through a similar experience, so it's probably a good example to use. What was your child motivated for in the grocery store? Most likely they were motivated for like a piece of candy, or maybe they wanted a toy. We understand that first action step. We know what they were motivated by. So now we can move forward to action step number 2. This is where it is very critical to take a moment and understand your emotion. Your child throwing a fit in the grocery store, how does that make you feel? Sometimes we need to become aware first of what their emotion is like. But with the grocery store example, typically if it's a 3 or 4-year-old, you're going to see their emotion. They're probably going to be very angry and distraught or upset or disappointed that they didn't get this piece of candy. In which case they threw the fit for. But right now in this moment, the second step would be to examine what your emotions are. What are the thoughts that are going through your mind? What decision are you about to make? Are you going to give them the candy so that they just stop crying? Emotions happen in an instant, and it's often really hard for us to recognize what we're feeling and how we're going to respond to, or what we look like in that moment after seeing or hearing or witnessing our child have this behavior. But it can be done similar to the positive thinking video that was posted last week. We can take a moment to be aware of how we're feeling. Think about what's happening in your mind or in your body. Again, using the grocery store example. In your mind, I imagine you're thinking something like this. Stop crying right now. You are embarrassing me. What are people going to think? People are going to think I'm a bad parent. Maybe you're thinking, boy, I'm going to whoop you when you get home. No judgment. We all have our feelings and emotions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or maybe you're thinking, I feel like crying right now. What should I do? The easiest thing to do would be to just give them the candy so they stop crying. right? Next, I would like you to take a moment to think about what is happening in your body. Is your face turning red? Do you want your face to turn red because maybe if your child knows you or had an experience of your face turning red previously, they know how angry mom gets. And when mom gets angry, it's very scary and X, Y, and Z natural consequences happen. Or maybe you don't want your face getting red, or maybe you are starting to feel sweaty or shaky or sick to your stomach, or maybe you just want to leave all your groceries there in the grocery store and run away. So action step number 3 in this case would be to think about their emotions. Now that you've thought about yours, take a moment to understand their emotions. Sometimes this can happen simultaneously, like we talked about before. We can obviously see that our child is disappointed or frustrated or angry. If they are screaming on the floor, that's kind of obvious. Then we want to evaluate the consequences. Action step number 4 in this case is to evaluate the consequences. You already know what motivates your child. You already know and can see what emotion your child is experiencing in this moment. You now understand what emotion you're experiencing in this moment and hopefully why you're experiencing this emotion. Now we can evaluate the consequences. I would like you to train your brain to start thinking, what are the long-term consequences for this next action step that I am about to take? If I give him the sucker, he might love me right now. He'll definitely stop crying, so people won't be staring at me. It won't be embarrassing anymore. He might be kind to me for the rest of the day, but he will think he can always have a sucker every time he comes to the grocery store, then another, and then another something else every time we go to the store or every time we go anywhere for that matter. And then later in life, he might think he can get whatever he wants if he misbehaves. Maybe I will go broke if that happens, and if he wants a sucker and the only way for me to get through my grocery store day is to buy him something, and then I might not be able to buy what I need. Or if I let him throw a fit here in the store, then maybe he'll get natural consequences like embarrassment. Yes, embarrassment can sometimes be good, and he'll probably wear himself out by kicking and screaming on the floor. There's a reason when they're young that they're small, and they're small so that we can throw them over our shoulder, carry them out of the store, leave our groceries in the middle of the aisle because that's what we need to do in that moment to be okay. If going to the grocery store is something that motivates them, then you can use that as a way to motivate their behavior. You know, we always want to recognize what they're feeling in the moment, recognize that they're feeling upset. You know, yes, Joey, I can see that you're upset and that you're angry because you wanted this sucker. However, I cannot give you this candy right now when you are acting like this, because that is not how we get what we want in life. I could teach you how to get a sucker next time we go to the grocery store, but I will not tell you this until you're calm. If he continues to throw a fit, you can say, I will give you 10 seconds to get off this floor, or I will not take you back to the grocery store. I will go without you when you're at school. Do you understand? So action step number 5 is to take action. Make a decision and stick to it. Children are our best prosecutors. They will hold you to it. One of our primary duties as a parent is to teach our children how to build good character and how to be competent. And one of the most prominent traits in building good character is honesty. And how can we teach them to be honest if we are liars? This step is usually the hardest step for us to take as parents, because deep down inside of us, we understand this action step is usually the most draining. They can take the most time at first, and they can cost us the love and affection that we get from our children in that moment. But trust me, you do not want a teenager throwing a fit on the floor in the grocery store. So no better time than now to start. Okay, so after we evaluated the consequences and implemented the consequences, hopefully that will get them to change their behavior, learn your expectations so that you can be consistent. Every time you go back to the grocery store, they already know what to expect. Hopefully this was just a first-time incident for you, and after this action plan, it will help you in the future. Let's use another example. Now, if you have other examples and you're curious about how to take action in that without even contacting me for a performance coaching session, feel free to write in the comments and ask questions, and I will reply with some possible action steps that you can take next time you experience this as a parent. But for now, let's use the example, one that's pretty often with my clients is Maybe their child is skipping school. Action step number 1 would be to find what motivates them. What motivates them to skip school? Are they skipping school because the teacher is mean? Are they skipping school because they're bored? Or maybe they're not paying attention in school. Are they not paying attention because they're bored? Do they have other things on their mind? Are they struggling in a relationship at school? Are they feeling ostracized or left out? Are they nervous about a test that they don't want to take? Are they skipping school repeatedly to maybe go and engage in negative behaviors with peers? We need to find out what's motivating them, okay? So action step number 2, if, for example, they're motivated because they're uninterested in school, then you need to take a moment to understand what your emotion is regarding that behavior, them skipping school. Are you feeling angry that they're skipping school? Are you feeling embarrassed because you've gotten so many calls from the teachers you don't want to have another phone call with them? Are you feeling worried about your child skipping school because of their grades, or because you're worried about what they're engaging with or what peers they're hanging out with when they're skipping school? You need to evaluate what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Action step number 3 in this case would most likely be that you would then take a moment to understand their emotions. Are they feeling angry? Are they feeling depressed? Are they feeling insecure? Are they feeling impulsive? Are they feeling distracted? Okay, so evaluating the consequences, action step number 4. What are you going to do as a parent? This a lot, again, depends on their development, what they understand in their development, what their personality and what their temperament is like. Are they quiet and calm and good listeners? In which case your consequence, the best natural consequence for that child might be that you talk to them. You ask them what's going on. Are they rebellious and defiant? In that case, your action step or your consequence might be something more rigid, for example. Maybe you're going to take away their cell phone, and that might motivate them to not skip school that day. You know, they get their phone back every day that they didn't skip school. Or maybe your consequence will be that you are going to ground them at home for a week, or you're going to give them an extra chore, or you're going to not allow them to hang out with those peers anymore if they're skipping school to make bad decisions. Again, as you can see, all of these action steps depend upon the previous action step. So finding what motivates them, taking action, and evaluating those consequences are going to be very different from a kid that's feeling insecure or afraid of their teacher or worried about the test that they're going to take than a child that's misbehaving or disobedient or rebellious and going to engage in adverse experiences instead of going to school. All of that is going to depend upon the next. So after we find a consequence, thinking about the long-term consequence in mind, after we evaluate and finalize the consequence, we're going to take action on that consequence. We are not going to say that you get your phone taken away every time you skip school, and then we feel bad for them, or we feel sorry for them when they skip school the next time, or we forget to implement the consequence, and then we're not being honest and we're not showing them what good character is. We're not following through with that consequence. They're never going to believe us when we try to implement a consequence in the future. Very critical that you take action, you stick to it. Of course, this process is much easier to start when our children are little, because once they believe you that you're going to follow through with that consequence, most likely it's going to get easier on you. And when they become a teenager, you don't often see yourself implementing as many consequences because your child already knows what your behavioral style and what your pattern of disciplinary action is going to be. So hopefully that in and of itself will be a natural motivator for them to make good decisions. Okay, action step, last but definitely not least, action step number 6. I know I mentioned action step number 5, taking action is the most important step in an action plan, which kind of makes sense. But ultimately, this action step is where you are going to see the most power, the most change, the most positive outcomes in your child. Action step number 6 is when you see a positive behavioral change or decision from your child, a decision that they made on their own based on their intrinsic motivation, whatever it was that motivated them. Motivation to come back to the grocery store, to earn getting that sucker, to not see mommy's face turn red and be angry because when mommy's angry, everyone else is angry, to not have people stare at them and make fun of them, a decision to stop throwing a fit, like we used in the example earlier. You reward them. Now, the reward doesn't have to be tangible, or it could be. The reward could be the natural reward or consequence of having a happy parent. It could be tangible also, like maybe a hug or positive praise or earning the sucker. In the example with the child skipping class or not being motivated in the classroom, their intrinsic motivation might be to overcome their social anxiety or to take action to learn and improve this anxiety. Maybe they're taking the time to work on their own mental health care, and so we want to praise them for that. They don't want their phone taken away. They learn they don't want to be a follower, they want to be a leader in life and make better decisions. Or maybe their motivation was to simply get some of your attention, some tough love. Whatever it is they learn from through you, we reward them for those decisions, small or big. Now, we don't have to reward every little thing. Like, we don't want to be too overbearing or irritating. Again, it's this balance in the relationship that only you and your child will know what's best. The more you experiment with this, the more reinforcement you'll have as a parent, and so will your child, to know what is working and what is not working. The more we experiment with this, the more we learn our child's behavior and their responses, the better in tune we can be with what they need. Research shows that for basically every one negative reinforcement in this case would be the consequence of like not seeing mommy very happy, seeing mommy with the red face, for example. That would be a negative reinforcer for your child to think, oh, I don't want to see mommy like that again, so I'm going to do something differently. For every one negative reinforcement, research suggests that we follow up, and I, through my observations and experiments with parenting myself and with working with parents and families, following up with at least 3 or 4 positive reinforcements, because we all know we are more motivated by positive outcomes, and this is ultimately what makes a better person. Remember, we want our child to be competent, having the wisdom and knowledge necessary to be a successful human in the world today, and to have good character. The rewards don't even have to come directly after the adverse experience necessarily. The positive rewards and praise that we give to our children should occur numerous times throughout the day. I'm trying to think of examples to give you, but I really want to use more personal examples of my relationship with my children to show you how it works, because it really, I was trying to role play or act it out, but that's not authentic. So I think once my children are feeling more comfortable being on the screen, which I imagine they will be soon, that looks like, every day they wake up in the morning and you greet them with love and we talk about what a great day it's going to be. I mean, that's a positive reinforcer right there for them to want to wake up in the morning. Or maybe they're nervous about school. My preschool daughter was nervous about going to school this morning, and so we talked about just all the amazing things that are going to happen and how she gets to see her friend and learn new things and play and get dirty and all those other things to try to motivate her. So, positive reinforcement oftentimes is just simple discussions with our child, reinforcing them about the future and that they're going to be okay, and giving them the encouragement and the courage that they might need from you as their parent to gain that courage and confidence themselves. So positive reinforcement, we're going to do a whole nother video on this topic in general, but regarding this action step plan, this is not necessarily always going to be number 6, because rewarding their positive behavior could come in between all of this. So for example, they have an adverse experience. Maybe you remind them of how they overcame that in the past. So you use a positive reinforcer maybe even in the beginning of this action step plan. So again, as with anything in parenting, as with anything in psychology, it is all a variety and this balance and this dance. I'm hoping to be able to meet with you all a little bit more personally to be able to help you in this journey, because someone very wise once told me that parenting is the hardest, most rewarding job in the world. And it really is. You are doing an amazing job just keeping your children alive. And so I want you to be able to just congratulate yourself on that. Give yourself gratitude for being able to be present and watch this video and learn all about parenting education. You're doing an amazing job. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you in the future. The more you practice these 5 action steps, the easier it will get. Trust me. It's hard at first, but not only will you take pride in knowing that you can build a better relationship with your child by finding what motivates them and what motivates you as a parent, by understanding your own emotions and theirs and staying true to your word, because in the eyes of a child, your word is their world. They will believe you when you tell them you love them. They will believe you when you tell them that you are going to protect them. And they will respect you for guiding them through all of the many hardships in this journey we call life. Thank you, everyone. I hope you found value in this content. If so, please like this video and consider subscribing to this channel for more free parenting education. And make it a great day. Much love. Bigfoot, let me ask you a question. Is mommy a good mommy?
Yes.
Yeah, I love you. You're the best princess ever. You're the best princess ever.
I have big shoes.
You do have big shoes.
And my shoe fell off.
Hey, London, let me ask you a question. Am I a good mom? Don't be shy. I love you. Harlan, I have a question. Am I a good mom?
Yes, you are.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Love you guys. Have a good day.